Hey, what's up? We're back with another podcast. We have seen that the season has been going on for a little bit, and there are a lot of ups and downs you can definitely agree with. So we're going to be talking about a couple of surprises, both good and bad, about the season. And we also have other topics we want to probably just go through that has happened throughout the season as well. So with the 5 surprises, this is not in any particular order, by the way, but one of them has been Jerami Grant for the Pistons, and I'm also going to be going a little bit more about the Pistons afterwards. But Jerami Grant has been having an excellent year. He's been averaging over 20. He's been averaging a couple rebounds and assists and blocks for all I've known. I remember he had this consecutive streak of 20-point games, but that ended last night when Ben Simmons played excellent defense on him. But anyway, he's been the main option for becoming a role player in Denver, which is what he wanted. But do you see Jerami Grant becoming an all-star?
Not really, just because Detroit is so much down in the standings. But yeah, since you touched on Jerami, I guess I can also start with him. He's also one of my top 5 surprising players. Well, I guess he wanted the ball more in his hands, and he got that with Detroit. And he hasn't disappointed in showing that he's a capable scorer. I think it was 25 points per game up until last night. I don't know how much it is now after that game. But he's a capable first option for that team. I don't really know if he could be he's definitely not a first option for a championship team, but he can be a solid second or third option with the way he's scoring right now. Just an overall good season for him, but it just sucks he's on such a bad team where he can't really show what he's capable against other good teams.
Yeah, I understand that. I think it's going to be more like how Bradley Beal is going through now. He's been going through that for a lot of years, where you're the best player on a very bad team, so you're having the ball all the time. But I guess now I can go to the second one, which has been a surprise in a very disappointing fashion. Blake Griffin, career lows in every single stat you can think of. And I guess you can say that his body is catching up to him, because he is not as aggressive as he once was when he was with the Clippers. And you can notice when he started playing in Detroit, he had to make a lot more and shoot a lot more. I expect him to take a little drop because age, as you said, age is catching up to him. But I didn't expect in this magnitude.
Yeah, I mean, he still is averaging something around the lines of 13, 6, and 5. Which is not bad, but knowing Blake and knowing what he is capable of, it is kind of disappointing, just because we know what he could do before he got injured, and he's just been injury prone his whole career, which is really unfortunate, because he's kind of that one-of-a-kind talent, because he's so uberly athletic, plus he can play make and now even shoot threes. But now all he does is just run around the court and shoot threes, and there's not much of that athletic thing. So I agree with you on that. I really think he could have been better, but it just sucks for him. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you see him getting traded?
No, not really, just because he has been such a disappointment, meaning his value is low, plus that contract is pretty high, so I don't really see a team going for him, other than, I don't even know. It would have to be something crazy. Somebody must have had to smoke very good shit for something like that to happen, because I don't really see him moving.
Nah, me neither at this rate. For number 3, this may be a little bit, up and down, but I have Ben Simmons. Many people expected him to take a jump this season due to the fact that they surrounded him with literal shooters. And not only will that help, I expected it to help his playmaking a lot, but I expected it to help his scoring output even more, because now that you don't have Al Horford anymore, you have Danny Green and you have Seth Curry, who are 3-point shooters. I expected Simmons to have a lot more of an open lane to score. But so far, he's had a career low year in scoring, and he's had a career high in turnovers. It may be, adapting to Doc Rivers' system, but I thought, and I think many people expected him to score a lot more this season, but over the years, the most points per game he's had is 16. Did you maybe expect him to maybe go above that threshold?
Over the years, so his whole career? No way.
No, not like that, but I'm talking about, did you ever expect him to average over 17 for at least a season?
I think, yeah, at some point, yes, because looking at him play, it looks like when he's up against a small point guard, he's just a freight train. He can just go to the rim anytime he wants. I guess the only problem really is that he can't shoot, so players can take advantage of that and go a little bit more down to the free throw line. So when he picks up steam, you already know he's coming, and you can try to defend that. Plus, there's also help defense. But I guess right now what they have is they have Seth Curry, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. And I guess Doc Rivers' new system, he probably changed some things around because Ben Simmons isn't shooting that much, and he's letting the offense run through Seth Curry, Tobias, and Joel, while they're letting Ben Simmons play make more.
Yeah, I get that, and yeah, that is actually a good, that is a good way to say it as well. How he hasn't been that much on offense, but what if the playoffs happens, right? What if we have those players that Doc Rivers has his system around? What if they struggle? What is Ben Simmons going to do once he gets the ball? Because there has been at times this season where he has come off as kind of passive.
I still think they need a little bit of improvements to their lineup, because I think they have a lot of young players and not really many scorers. Last year they at least had Glenn Robinson and Alec Burke off the bench. Right now they have Shake Milton, who I think has had a really good season so far. He's averaging 16 points, but that is mostly due to the fact that the Philadelphia players have been out due to COVID and everything. So I do think they need at least one more player that they can run their offense through, because as of right now, it could be a problem for Philadelphia. Yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah. So I guess another surprise this season has been Julius Randle. He has been a really big surprise for me this season. I have him on fantasy. I'm like, okay, he'll get easily double-doubles. I did not expect him to become a near triple-double machine this season. He's averaging 22, 11, and 6 or 22, 11, and 7. He's getting all these assists across the board. And New York have been having one of their best starts in a long time, due to obviously the fact that the starters are playing close to 40 minutes per game, and Julius Randle has just been activated by, Thibs. RJ Barrett has been playing amazing. I've seen Nerlens Noel, he's been playing decently as well. And we haven't even seen what Obi Toppin can do yet, but I don't think Obi Toppin will have that big of an impact his rookie season, just because how Thibs is with his starters. Yeah. But anyway, a surprise for me has definitely been Julius Randle and the fact that, triple doubles, almost averaging a triple double.
Yeah, and also the fact that Tibbs rarely likes to play his rookie players, or at least from what we've seen with Chicago and Minnesota, he likes to play his starters a lot, and some guys he is he trusts in off the bench. So it might not be Obi Toppin, but if they're blowing out teams like Boston by like 30 points, I guess Obi Toppin will get his minutes. But another player I want to touch on that's been surprising this year is Miles Turner. He's averaging around 1,000 blocks per game, seeing how the season has started. And it's just amazing how he turned his career around in one offseason, from people saying he doesn't fit in Indiana to now being one of the best young centers in the NBA. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that, and to even more emphasize your point, we saw that Indiana played this one game without Miles Turner, and you could see how problematic it was when the other teams were in the paint. It clearly shows that Domantas Sabonis, he can play center on offense, right, but he can't defend anything in the paint to save his life, and that's where Miles Turner fits right in. Plus, he can shoot the 3-ball, which would benefit a team like the Sixers probably, but they probably can't do that. But it just, watching Miles Turner not play when the Indiana Pacers lost, it proves how important he is to the team, really.
Oh, for sure.
I guess for my last surprising player has been Chris Boucher for the Toronto Raptors. Toronto has been a lot of up and down, but I think they've been picking it up. And Boucher has been an absolute menace for many teams this season. The Toronto Raptors, they waived Alex Len. I think that's maybe to get Boucher more minutes. Boucher has had double-doubles a lot of games. He's had his best scoring output in his entire career so far this season. And I can see him potentially picking up similar numbers because of how Toronto's system is. It's a lot of ball movement, a lot of unselfishness. And looking out, majority of those players are from the championship team. They probably know how to, feed the hot man at the right time.
Oh yeah, and because of how Siakam's been playing, how bad they've been in general, And I guess to that point, you can also say a disappointing player this year has been Aaron Baines, who we all thought was going to be their starting center, but he's done absolutely nothing. I guess Chris Boucher has really carved out a role in that team. A block machine, as you said. He can score, he can hit threes. The only problem with him is, right, I think he's 28 years old. You would think he's young, but I think he's reaching his prime right now, which is crazy because we only saw him come into the league yesterday, and now he's already 28. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it is odd to think about that, but there are many old rookies who came into the league and dominated. Even Arvydas Sabonis years ago, when he came in as like a 28, 30-year-old, around that mark, and he was really good. But many people may think Boucher was a young player because of how long he's been in the league. But I can see him maybe hold up certain similar stat lines for maybe 2-3 years. Because he's a player that relies on his athleticism to get where he needs to go.
You know who was the oldest rookie in the NBA?
Wasn't it Pablo Prigioni?
Yeah, he was 35. That's crazy.
Jesus.
We still have 15 years, dude.
No.
Either way, like, you named all your players. I'm gonna quickly run down through the players I have left. I have CJ McCollum, who took a well-needed leap. He always felt like a second man next to Lillard, but at the start of this year, he looked like on the same level as Lillard, at least scoring-wise. And yeah, it's just unfortunate he has an injury right now. Jaylen Brown, short off season, but amazing progress. He's upped his handle, very tight handle, great shot creating, and averaging career high numbers and carrying Boston while Tatum is out. And
I gotta say,
yeah,
Brown's mid-range game is one of the best in the league.
Yeah,
at the moment.
for sure. Like,
it feels like every time he takes a mid-range, it's bound to go in. That's what it feels, at least.
Is he an all-star this year? I think he is.
He has to be. He has to be an all-star. Looking at how I think there have been quite a few injuries along the Eastern Conference, and probably how Tatum has been taking, he's had his COVID issue. So Jaylen Brown has been stepping up. He dropped over 40 versus Philly. Yeah, I think he should be an all-star this season.
Yeah, and for the last player, I have DeAndre Hunter, who's averaging 16 points in the absence of Gallo and Bogey. And I guess it's a much-needed jump for the Hawks, as he is now the third guy next to Trey and Collins, as well as Capella, who got a triple-double 2 nights before. And an honorable mention, just a quick one, is Mikal Bridges, who's averaging 15 points with that great Phoenix Suns team right now.
Excellent. It's sad that they lost versus Denver, though. But those 2 Denver games we saw recently, they were one of the best games of the season, I think.
Oh yeah, Jamal Murray had a buzzer beater, and then they went to overtime. Who won that game?
I think Denver won both.
All right. So those are our surprising players, and I guess we can now move on to some of the topics around the league that have happened since the last podcast. And the first one, probably the biggest one, is probably the James Harden trade. And how do you think it affects the Nets, their bench, and other teams that were in the trade?
With what we saw early on with the Brooklyn Nets, it is no surprise they can outscore every team in the league. It's a given. But the other given is that their defense is god-awful. They're going to concede many points, but they're not going to be able to, I don't think they're going to be able to blow that many teams out because of, how awful their depth is and how awful their defense has been in general. They have been missing Jared Allen, and that is a given. And DeAndre Jordan, he is still formidable, don't get me wrong, but at times I've watched him, I just would rather not have him on the floor at times. And I think you can relate to that as well.
Yeah, that's true. Jared Allen even said he would have done the same thing with the trade.
He would have done the trade, yeah. But if they would have kept Jared Allen for some weird reason, if they would have managed to keep Jared Allen one way or another, Brooklyn would have been the heavy favorites just because of how good he is. But I don't think that would have been possible anyway.
Yeah, but no bench for Brooklyn, so that's a big issue.
Yeah, however, I thought at the time, Brooklyn's trade is going to be absolutely amazing because of, they're going to outscore everybody and you've seen how James Harden is at times a capable defender, and when Kevin Durant was with Golden State, he was a decent defender as well, but now it just doesn't seem that way because I guess when you are quote-unquote favorites and you have all these powerhouse offensive players, I guess you tend to slack off on defense a bit because you're thinking, yeah, we have myself, let's say that's Kevin Durant, and you have Kyrie, and you have James Harden, who can practically score at will. I guess that kind of relaxes you a little bit.
Yeah, but I guess I can quote Charles Barkley here because he said that Kevin Durant went from the Splash Brothers to the Dribble Brothers in Irving and Harden, which is funny because they've like their usage is super high, and even so, Joe Harris also gets a lot of opportunities, which is really interesting. And as we saw last game, he had so many opportunities, so many open threes. So it just shows how much attention those three guys bring to the floor. It's just really, really sad that they only have around 6 or 7 players that can actually play. And I agree with the thing you said about DeAndre. I've been lurking around the Brooklyn Nets forums, and they've said that DeAndre Jordan is somebody who, like, heavy legs. He's not really what he used to be. And they were happy that one game he got benched and didn't even play. But that was before the trade happened, and now he's the starting center. And they can't really do much about that.
Well, you said early on that they signed Norval Pell.
Yeah.
You know, he is a shot blocker, so he'll probably help a little bit more. Plus, he's younger, if I believe.
Yeah, I think he's also like 27, but he is younger than Jordan. He can get you that 10 minutes before he fouls out. As we know, he's a fouling machine. But I hope that 10 minutes is all you need for the Brooklyn team right now, who are currently playing Reggie Perry, I believe, as a backup center. Like, don't get me, I've never heard of him. Second round pick, number 57 in this year's draft, and he's playing for a Brooklyn team right now. He's been okay, but like, you kind of want a little bit more. And I don't really think Norval Pell is that, but I guess it's an improvement.
What I think they should do, I was gonna say when Alex Len got waived, maybe they can pick up Alex Len because he can shoot. He can somewhat shoot. But what they think they should do is trade for JaVale McGee, because Cleveland now has a load of centers with Drummond. They can even sometimes play Larry Nance at center. They have Drummond, Jared Allen, JaVale McGee as well. So I think, and JaVale McGee, it looks like he's going to be out of the rotation. And looking at his age and even his contract, I think Brooklyn should pursue him, personally.
Yeah, by the way, Alex is on the Wizards now. The Wizards signed him. I agree with the plethora of centers. McGee isn't even playing now, even though Kevin Love is out. So I can't even imagine what happens when Kevin Love is back. That lineup is going to be... They must have to play Kevin Love at small forward or something. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work, because there's so much minutes needed to be accoladed to all these centers, but there's only one center that can play at a time. Unless you want to play them both together, which I think is just absurd in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. Should we move on? Yeah, the next topic is injuries around the league. We have had a lot of injuries, really unfortunate ones. Some of them have been season-ending injuries. Some of them have been just for a couple weeks. So I guess we can start off. Who do you want to start off with?
I'm sad about the CJ McCollum injury, because he was averaging around 27 points. And for years, I knew that he has been capable of averaging those numbers. And it's just sad to see him gone, because it's just going to increase those questions about, Portland, will they reach the finals, or will they manage to do anything? But they have always, for years now, struggled with injuries. And I don't think that's not even a joke. They've actually struggled with a significant injury every year, at least with McCollum and Lillard.
Yeah, McCollum, he has a fractured foot. He'll be out for a couple weeks. As well as Nurkic, who had a wrist injury, and he's going to be out for like 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, Nurkic this year has not been good. And right now, like, he was averaging like 9.9 points per game. Like, he ran 4 or 5 minutes around the court, and it looked like he was super gassed. So I don't know what they've been feeding him in Bosnia, but I really hope this injury is kind of a blessing in disguise, where he can work on his cardio a little bit. So when he comes back, we can see him like playing 8 to 9 minutes a run without getting gassed and putting up decent numbers.
Yeah, I hope so, that as well. Is there any other significant injuries you have?
There are some of the season-ending injuries, like Thomas Bryant and Markelle Fultz. I guess the reason why Len got signed to the Wizards was just because of Thomas Bryant. He was playing good, like, don't you think? He was playing pretty good.
Thomas Bryant, he's been playing, I haven't paid much attention to the Wizards or Thomas Bryant, but I know he is definitely starter quality, and I know he's been an excellent offensive player for these past few years.
And he's young, and he can shoot threes.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I guess that completely kills the Wizards' chances, knowing also that they've been missing a lot of games due to COVID, but we have also Markelle Fultz. I think, does this mean the inevitable Orlando Magic 8th seed again?
I don't even know if they'll reach the playoffs, to be honest. I was rooting for Markelle Fultz this season because I think everybody was rooting for him, because looking how it went with him in Philly, he had that hiccup in his jump shot. Looking at him having a great year in Orlando, just for it to end like this, it's sad to see, but I think he's going to come back a lot better. I think everybody's going to expect him to come back and just ball out, because while he's still young, he'll probably be fine again.
Plus, they have Jonathan Isaac, who's going to come back next year. I think their core, the young core, is absolutely crazy, but they just have to stay healthy. They just have to get like their reps in, and that team could be scary, but we just have to hope it happens, you know, because right now they're just going to have to rely on Vucevic again. And I guess Cole Anthony starting at point guard, you get some decent run for him, who's going to probably be the backup point guard under Markelle next year, but I guess this helps him grow a lot. Do you think that's true for most of the young players?
Oh, 100%. Give them more experience, you know, let them get their feet in the water, and get their feet in the water and it will be fine. Just, you know, Cole Anthony will probably struggle a little bit, because it is a given when you're a young point guard in the league, it takes time to get used to the pace, get used to everything else going on. So I think it is valuable rep for Cole Anthony, at least.
Plus he got a game winner against Minnesota, I think.
Hey, that's a good way to start at least. But I've been saying it for quite some time now. I think Orlando has to blow up the team, because they're in an awful position where they can't contend, but they can't tank for a lottery pick either. So I think personally they should just try and get rid of all the valuable pieces they have while they can, and just go for a full rebuild. Because now they have young players they can at least use to get some excitement going on.
Cole Anthony, Fultz, Aaron Gordon, Jonathan Isaac, and Mo Bamba. Just run that team for you. See what happens. But I guess another injury that is also really important to talk about is the Tyler Hero one. He isn't out for long, but he had a neck injury that worsened when the Heat were supposed to play the 76ers on the 12th of January. Or the 21st, I think I might have gotten it wrong. But he was forced to play due to like the NBA rules. And now his neck injury has worsened, and he'll be out for like the next 2 or 3 games. And that is really unfortunate for the Heat, who have been having nagging injuries and COVID all season, and they're currently the 12th seed. What do you think about like this whole thing that he had to play a game due to all the protocols?
To be honest, I don't really know. I don't have a stance on it yet. I can at least compare it to years ago with Kawhi Leonard when he had his whole injury saga, because he didn't want to play, but the camps, like, people said he was fine. And I think what it learns is that you have to listen to the player about what they really want. And remember, Isaiah Thomas had his hip injury and he was never the same since. I'm not comparing Tyler Hero's injury to Isaiah Thomas's or Kawhi's. It's just that if you're forced to play and you don't feel like you should, you shouldn't. But even if they force you, it is a little bit, you know, worrying for the long term.
I think if it was the Heat's decision, he probably wouldn't play, but just because the NBA wanted the game to happen, and he was technically a healthy guy, he had to play just so there would be 8 healthy players. So yeah, I don't know. We'll talk about the post moments next, but last injury is Cat, who's had COVID, and it's just unfortunate after everything that's happened to his family last year. And, well, I guess on the bright side, looks like the Timberwolves have already given up this year, as they are resting DAngelo after a 20-minute run last game. I don't really think a young guy needs a rest after playing just 20 minutes the game before.
Yeah,
this means something.
I feel bad for Minnesota, man. I feel bad for D'Lo and Cat because of the sad situation they're in, that, you know, they're playing in Minnesota. However, they both can't defend, so there's that. But, man, I miss Brooklyn DAngelo Russell, okay? I miss that D'Lo. You know, the one that was leading the team. It was a fun season to watch, but I think I think Minnesota have thrown in the towel at this point. It is very early, but with Cat, I guess it rains, it pours. I feel so bad for him because of everything that he's gone through, and then some with now, but I do not know what Minnesota will do now, to be honest.
Plus, Edwards has been pretty right? Who would have even drafted it right now if we did a redraft? Who goes number 1?
if I'm correct, I think the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year is LaMelo Ball.
Yeah.
His shooting has been up and down, but he more than makes up for it with his rebounding and playmaking. So I think he's number one. In my opinion, a sleeper pick for, he will not go number one because the top three was a given. But a sleeper pick the Minnesota Timberwolves could have made, I gotta say, is either Deni Avdija or Patrick Williams, because those are forwards who will, give you I know Patrick Williams will give you a little bit of that Kawhi Leonard vibe, and we desperately know Minnesota needs something like that because they can't defend for anything. Plus, I want to see how Minnesota would use somebody like Deni Avdija, because the Wizards have been wasting Deni Avdija. They've only been using him as a spot up. And if I remember correctly, the stats were in Washington's favor when he was having the ball in his hands. So I think those two players, and I'll even throw in Tyrese Halliburton maybe, because Tyrese Halliburton has been a steal for this draft as well.
I think if it was LaMelo, he could have balled out. Like, with all this LeVar Ball saying he's not a role player, I think if he was in Minnesota right now, he'd be starting, he would be getting a lot of minutes, and probably a lot of triple-doubles as well.
Do you think he'd be a 2-guard and D'Lo at the 1?
I think he could even play the 3 at some point, but since D'Lo is out now because of rest, and since they've given up, might as well just give the rookies their chance to play, right?
Yeah, I understand that, but the thing is with Russell and LaMelo, as they are ball dominant guards. It's like the Brooklyn team. They need the ball to dominate. I don't think it would have worked as well with LaMelo and D'Lo if let's say their whole lineup is healthy. That's why I said a player like Patrick Williams, or I even said Deni Avdija and Tyrese Halliburton, but I think mostly Patrick Williams because he's a lot more versatile, and I think he'd benefit with what Minnesota needs at least.
In retrospect, was that DAngelo Russell trade to Timberwolves, was that a good trade, and for which team then? I think honestly it was a bad trade for both teams maybe.
I heard Wiggins has had he's had a slight resurgence, but I think it's a rental regardless with Kelly Oubre as well. They're not gonna stay here for long. But with DAngelo Russell, I have no idea. Like, I think
it didn't benefit them at all. Like, they're just as bad. They're just as bad.
I don't know. I think regardless what they would have done, Minnesota would not have done anything. Like, Minnesota, they're doing what they can right now. They're tanking, and they're trying to get, that good player that'll help them. But knowing how bad Cat and D'Lo are at defense, they should have drafted somebody who is defensive oriented. I said Deni Avdija. I'd maybe like to switch that to Isaac Okoro, and I'll still keep Patrick Williams there because those are guys who are well-rounded defenders. But when you look at how Anthony Edwards has been the projected top 3 pick, I understand that. But don't you think they could have traded down and gotten another pick to boost their rebuild?
That's what they wanted to do, but I guess ultimately they stayed in the same position. I don't really know why. This draft was weak after all, but I guess there was just no demand. So that's why they stayed. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I understand that. Next, I think we talked about this long enough.
All right, so. Yeah, we have postponements around the league, most notably Washington and Memphis. And with what Bo said, the win percentage could be taken into account and not record. How do you think this will impact the league?
I think this will impact the league, in my opinion, a lot bigger than it seems because, looking at this, looking at how we've had teams that are projected to reach the playoffs, they've had their early struggles, such as Toronto and Miami. Miami have been up and down, Toronto have been up and down. Looking at that, based on the injuries around the league, I think it will be a huge part long-term, looking at when the season comes to a close. Win percentage will be huge right now. Because when you're looking at the Knicks' hot start, you're looking at other teams struggling that should reach the playoffs. It's going to matter. It's definitely going to matter.
And it's hard to reschedule the games as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're going to have to go through the play-in tournament as well. So we're going to probably see a team that was projected not to reach the playoffs reach the playoffs. Probably, like, even potentially Portland, due to the win percentage and looking at the Western Conference and how they haven't been winning as much even with McCollum. I don't think they've been, I think they have not been winning as much, and their main players have been struggling. Like some of their players have been struggling. That is going to bite them huge, even with the injuries. And we're going to see a sleeper team in the West that would not have made the playoffs make the playoffs probably.
And it's hard to reschedule the games just because the league is already on a tight schedule due to the Tokyo games. And players who make it to the finals might not make it to Tokyo because of, the scheduling. That is if Tokyo even happens, because we've heard now that they are also considering canceling the Olympics for this year, which is crazy for 2 years in a row.
Yeah, but it is, in my opinion, they probably should, because I'd rather find out until COVID or the virus is completely gone, and then we'll find out what we'll do. The day COVID is done and crowds can come into this, the arena again, it's going to probably feel like New Year's again. It's probably just going to be absolutely crazy.
Not true.
And,
but do you think the Olympics should happen next year then?
In my opinion, the Olympics should happen when there's a stable ground, or when there's a decent enough of audience members and a decent enough of, vaccines and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I understand why they postponed it, but I think they should first find a middle ground. A solid middle ground between we're back and we also have to be careful. So I understand next year, but if they want to push for it this year, I understand that as well.
The problem is next year should have technically been the Winter Olympics, and we could be getting the Summer Olympics instead. So it's like we went full circle from now like having summer winter to now having it the other way around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about this. Also, a huge thing. What's going to happen with this? A lot of rescheduling to do. But another topic we already touched on: LaMelo Ball. He had the youngest. He was the youngest player to get a triple double in this league. And do you think it's easier to get triple doubles now than it was, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, 100%. Looking at how Steph Curry changed the game with 3-pointers, the pace has been completely changed compared to 20 years ago, and it's easy to notice. So, long story short, more threes, more rebounds, more space, more pace, more assists. It's definitely easier for LaMelo Ball to get a triple-double now.
I agree with the pace, yeah.
So, and when you've been looking at triple-double records by the youngest player, Lonzo Ball had it, Markelle Fultz had it. They were in the modern NBA, and that was a few years ago. And they were specifically point guards, where it is now a guard-oriented league, compared to years ago, where the main guys were bigs, such as Shaq or Sean Kemp, for example, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, those kind of guys, where you don't post up that much anymore unless if you are good at legitimately posting up. So yeah, triple doubles are definitely easier. Now.
Yeah, more possessions because of the faster paced game, and I guess that's why people get more opportunities because just more chances really. And even Capella got a triple double last night with blocks, so that's crazy. Even Capella can get a triple double. All right, we can move on to the next topic, which is the Jazz. They've been having a 7-game win streak. They've been playing amazingly, and is this winning streak sustainable?
I'm a little bit I think Utah has the assets to keep a winning streak sustainable, but it's also a no because remember, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, they had a crazy win streak, and then right after they had a crazy losing streak, a constant roller coaster of up and down. And the Jazz, they have a tendency to go hot and then go cold. We even saw that in the playoffs where they choked a 3-1 lead. So, I guess at least with the injuries and how there isn't that many crowd members, it'll feel like a scrimmage game more than anything. It is more sustainable now than, years ago at least.
I think the first year when Mitchell came in the league, they started off 10-30 and then they finished 30-10. Was it them or was it Miami? It
was Miami. They had the best second, they had the best record in the second half.
Didn't Utah also have something similar? Because I'm having this thought in my mind that I also had something like this, or am I mixing things up?
I have no idea, but I remember Miami Heat years ago had a crazy winning streak.
All right, then I probably messed up. But yeah, I think the reason why they've been so good this year is because of Conley, like the resurgence of Conley. Because we know last year, the first year when he came to Utah, he just wasn't it. Like, new system, and he wasn't adapted really. So I think that was a reason why they were kind of disappointing. And yeah, Clarkson has been unbelievable. We even have an article on the website why Clarkson is like a sixth-man candidate of the year. He's been like very, very fire right now. But I think for players like Clarkson, I think these are the kind of players that are going to have the hot streaks and cold streaks. Do you agree on that?
Yeah, he is definitely a streaky shooter, but might as well, keep running with him until he potentially goes cold, which he hasn't. He's been amazing so far.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how long he keeps it up. And I'm hoping Bogdanovic, the player who they were missing in last year's playoffs, starts to pick it up a little bit more, because right now he's averaging 13.5 points per game. Not really good field goal percentage, but we know what he can do. And if he gets to the level he was last year at least, this team could be deadly. Right now they are third, I believe. Third.
I think so.
Oh no, they dropped. They dropped a little bit. No, they're second. Never mind, they're second place. Tied second with Clippers. They've been having a roll right now. So yeah, this team definitely deserves to keep an eye on. So yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see.
I think, like, if I can just imagine if Utah have all their strongest assets all fully healthy, let's say on a 4 to 5 game winning streak going into the playoffs, they could beat the Clippers, and I'm not even kidding, because we have Mike Conley playing really good. Imagine him with Bogdanovic from last year. He averaged around 20 last year. They have Royce O'Neal, who can also somewhat defend. Who is their other small forward? No, wait. They have Bogdanovic. So they have Conley. They have Mitchell, Bogdanovic, Ingles, and Gobert.
They're starting O'Neal, Royce O'Neal. Ingles is off the bench.
Starting Royce O'Neal as well. Ingles off the bench with Jordan Clarkson, and also I think that they have Favors and George's Niang as well. Mm-hmm. Niang can shoot. This team is potentially very deadly in the playoffs. And remember, rookie Donovan Mitchell knocked out Melo. No, wait. They knocked out George, Westbrook, and Melo in the playoffs.
That was crazy. Gotta admit.
Why can't they do that several other times? With a potentially fully healthy lineup. I think Utah could potentially have a great playoffs this season, bouncing back from last year.
I don't really see them beating the Clippers, though, because the Clippers have been better this year. And I guess
Paul George has been absolutely amazing so far.
Yeah. And this just reminded me, there's also one surprising player from the Clippers that I wanted to shout out, which is Nicholas Batum. We didn't even see him in Charlotte for like last year, I think, and he got that big contract. Once he got that contract, he decided, all right, time to stop playing, and we didn't really see much of him. But now he's on the Clippers. When Morris was injured, he was their starting small forward shooting guard, and boy, was he good. Like, spot up threes, getting rebounds, getting assists. Right now, when Morris is back, his role has diminished a little bit, but for like a minimum contract, this is a great signing for the Clippers.
He's giving them excellent value so far, and plus he was with that Portland team with Lillard years ago, so he is capable of being in a winning setting as well.
That's true. Talking about surprises, I guess we can move on to a surprising team, which has been the New York Knicks. One of the best starts to the season they've had in years.
Yep.
Any comments on that?
I think, haven't we already talked about the Knicks, about how they have had fibs and everything like that as well?
That's true. Yeah.
Hang on. I have a surprising team. What the actual hell is going on with the New Orleans Pelicans right now?
Oh yeah, that's true.
They're making Lonzo Ball a spot-up shooter. I knew Eric Bledsoe and Lonzo was not going to work out because Lonzo needs the ball and Bledsoe needs the ball. Lonzo Ball has been in a lot of trade rumors. I do not know if they should do that. I think they should maybe part ways with Eric Bledsoe, because let's be real here. They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna win the chip, due to the floor spacing that they have is god awful. They have Adams, Zion, Lonzo. He's been up and down, and they also have Brandon Ingram, who's been I think one of their most consistent players along with Zion.
Yeah.
But man, they've been. And JJ Redick as well, he's not been playing as well. But man, they've been disappointing, I gotta say.
Yeah. The thing I remember, I've been watching Reddick's podcast. He said something that Brandon Ingram is probably the player who watches the most film. So
yes, it's Chris Paul, I believe.
yeah, so that's encouraging. Plus, the game feels so easy to him, and I could just imagine if he added like 10 or 15 pounds of more muscle, boy, could he be scary. But they definitely need some change with that team. I think Lonzo is on the last year of his contract, and I remember JJ Redick also talking to him about how he's an improved shooter. Haven't seen that very much this year. Also, the free throws are still low, which kind of indicates how good of a shooter you are technically. If you can shoot free throws, you can probably shoot the 3-pointer as well. But he's been kind of bad in both of those categories.
I remember last year he had that huge stretch of games where he was putting up like 15 to 20 points, shooting accurately from deep, and that new improved form looked actually really smooth. This season, it's been up and down. I remember watching him shoot a 3-pointer, and I'm like, oh yeah, this looks completely fine. And then suddenly I'm looking at him taking a mid-range, and it's that old form that he used to have. It's a little bit bizarre, but speaking of Lonzo, I've heard Orlando have been pursuing him, which they should because, you know, if they, I guess they still want to win, like somewhat get a winning culture, and Lonzo is at the moment a more all-around player than Cole Anthony, but
like this year, that doesn't make sense. They have
no,
Fultz.
but Fultz is injured.
So for you, like a 1 year rental for Ball?
I suppose so, but you know, the rumors have been that they have been pursuing him. So I guess that's what that's where I'm coming at here. But
I don't think that makes sense.
Me neither, to be honest. But I'm just saying it just because Orlando's been pursuing it, and I'm trying to find some logic in it. But where do you think Lonzo Ball should go if he's not to stay with New Orleans?
Like, he is in a very interesting situation. He didn't get an extension. It's very hard for me seeing he gets an extension after the way he's been playing right now, other than if he agrees with like a team-friendly deal. But man, like I have no clue where he could go. Like he is a one-of-a-kind player, but also can drag your team down with the way he's shooting. So it could literally be any team. It's very hard to predict with Lonzo.
This may be a little bit weird, but I could see him maybe on the Knicks because I don't think Elfrid Payton's it, and I know Lonzo Ball is somewhat of like a little bit better version of Elfrid Payton.
Quickley though.
But I want Quickley is an amazing point guard. I gotta give it to him. I really love Immanuel Quickley. I remember once Bruce Buffer was introducing the college team he was at. I forgot what team it was, but we remember him introducing everybody, and Quickley had a quote on it under his name when they were looking at the name and stats, and the stat or like what the quote said about Quickley is that he had a fear of being average, and I think that speaks of something. Plus, when he was playing against Boston, his floaters were on point. He looked like Tony Parker out there with those floaters. But I would love to see maybe, let's say New York wants to pursue Lonzo Ball. That's a potential. Lonzo Ball starting, Immanuel Quickley, sixth man, instant offense off the bench. Do you think that would be a possibility?
Maybe. Like, which teams actually need a point guard, though? Not many.
Not
if
many.
At all.
I mean, Detroit have Derrick Rose, but
and Killian, who's also injured. But
Killian's injured. Maybe they want Lonzo Ball as a quick replacement. I don't know.
I guess
it's
honest. New York, and honestly, that's about it.
Maybe Orlando. I'm not saying maybe because they've of course been trying to pursue him.
This just proves how like the guard heavy league. Like everybody has like top tier point guards.
You gotta have it. That's why there are many people who are saying, "Oh yeah, he's been snubbed. He's been snubbed," because it's such a guard-heavy league. I don't think Zach LaVine has ever been an All-Star. Bradley Beal wasn't an All-Star. Devin Booker got in because of an injury last season, I believe. That has to prove that guards are bound to take over.
Yeah, that's true. Are we done? Should we move on to the next topic?
Next up, my guy.
We have Kevin Porter Jr. and what the hell has been happening to him? Taurean Prince took over his locker room. Kevin Porter was not happy about that. He throws some food around, and now he's in Houston.
I think it was Kenny Smith talking about it, and he said, I understand with Kevin Porter Jr. because as a player, there are signs of respect and disrespect, he said. And it is when they take your number, and there was another thing, and when they take your locker, it is a sign of disrespect. And I heard he didn't necessarily know about it as much. So I'm not a player, so I can't necessarily be in any of their players' shoes. But when Kenny Smith says it in that retrospect, I understand why. Could he have handled it differently? Definitely. But looking at how this season he has had legal issues, and that outburst kind of proves that they had to get rid of him. They had to, and I think Houston is a necessary fresh start for him, and I think he'll be a lot better. Because when you're looking at who's on that team, they have John Wall and Boogie Cousins. They were hotheads. They were somewhat of hotheads coming into the league, and looking at they've matured, looking at their handling situations a lot differently, I think they could maybe, guide Kevin Porter Jr. to, becoming a lot improved player now.
Yeah, he got traded for a second rounder, and Houston basically took a flyer with Kevin Porter Jr. It's going to be hard to tell how much longer it is until he actually plays a game, because with the Cleveland situation, it was like they're going to wait for whenever he's ready, because I guess he wasn't matured enough. So it's going to be interesting to see for a second rounder, for like the talent you're getting. We know what he can do on the floor. I guess it's a good trade for Houston, and we just hope they can cope with like the things he's been up to, and if he turns out to be a decent player, hey, that's a win for Houston. As they're right now, they're kind of in a medium rebuilding process. They still have good pieces with Oladipo and Wood, but yeah, they could make the play-in tournament, but I don't really see them doing much if they do make the playoffs. So
no. Plus, I heard Oladipo, he still wants to sign with Miami, and I think that will be potentially very deadly. But I think this Houston team will potentially be a what if. But speaking of Houston, I'm really glad Boogie Cousins had an amazing game. Double-double with 26 points, 12 rebounds, I think. So it's glad to see him come back and, at least have that somewhat of a resurgence game.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we can move on to we already talked about New York. We talked about the Pelicans. Are there any other surprises looking at the standings currently, both good and bad?
Other than mentioning, New Orleans, Miami, for me there isn't as much.
I have a couple.
There isn't as much I can think of off the top of my head at the moment. I guess Brooklyn and their record, they're barely above 500, and on paper their team is amazing, but they're trying to mesh with Kyrie now, and it will be ups and downs, I suppose.
They lost to Cleveland twice though. Come on.
I don't think that's it kind of proves. It kind of showed what they were lacking. But what teams do you have that have been huge surprises?
Surprises in a bad way. Toronto and Miami. Just looking at their record, we know Miami's had their struggles with Butler being out, with some other players being out. But for a team that reached the finals, they're 6-9. Surely you have to do better than that. And Toronto, damn, I didn't think they were going to be this bad, but they've just been looking terrible.
This kind of proves.
Yeah, they started
It kind of
off.
proves what Kawhi really is to a franchise. I think that Toronto team was the best thing we could have gotten potentially out of Siakam, and I think this also proves what kind of what Siakam will be, because when he was at second option, he was amazing. He was regarded as this amazing talent, and there was questions about whether he's in primary option. Looking at the playoffs last year, he was struggling. He was struggling a lot.
The thing is, last year they had a good record even without Kawhi. Right now, ever since Ibaka and Gasol left, it doesn't look like the same team. It looks very, very bad.
Ibaka was for the Raptors what Al Horford was for Boston years ago. That's the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, and a team I have with the surprises that we haven't mentioned this episode much, other than right when we talked about Brooklyn, is the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are currently 8-7. We know obviously Sexland with Sexton and Garland. Sexton has been amazing. I think also deserving of a surprising player nod.
Definitely.
40,
Well, I mean,
40-point game or 45-point game against Brooklyn.
To be honest, I wouldn't say it is surprising because last season he was still amazing. But I guess early on, because Cleveland have been winning more, he gets a little bit more attention now.
But I think it's hard going from 20 to 27 points per game. I think that's a crazy jump because averaging 20 is crazy, but and you'd think he'd stay consistently at that number, but he hasn't stayed consistent. He's gone up and up by a lot.
That is actually absurd when you're thinking about it.
Yeah. So for that reason, I think so. That's why I like Cleveland this year. And plus, you know about Larry Nance. Larry Nance has been good. You like Jared Allen. And they still have a lot of pieces like Seti has been playing good. Isaac Okoro. I mean,
Darius Garland has
Garland.
been averaging 17.
Yeah.
He's been averaging 17. That's been amazing.
He looks like a really good player out there. Like, it's basically like a young Lillard and McCollum, only in a different way with how they're scoring and everything.
Yeah, like I think we're gonna see I think we're gonna see a lot more of Collin Sexton this year because I remember against Brooklyn he scored 20. I think it was like 20. Was it 20 points
20 straight? Yeah.
The last time I heard somebody scoring of a huge magnitude, scoring straight, like
LeBron.
certain amount of straight points, LeBron versus Detroit years ago so it's like, damn, Sexton's really like that. Plus, remember in college, he was in that situation where they only had 3 players on the court, and he rallied a small comeback.
What a career for him so far.
Like, damn. Plus, the young bull, man. Just watch out for Collin Sexton. He's gonna be absolutely amazing right now for this season.
All right, and to round it off, a quick conversation on who we think the MVP is so far of the season. You can start.
There are many, in my opinion, there are many candidates. I think one of them, as many have said, Nikola Jokic. That man, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. He looks fast, okay? He looks very fast. You can clearly see he's slimmed down. And I'm looking at him. He has the ball in the post, does a fast spin move on Wiseman, reverse dunk.
Hey, it's a hard layup. You can't call it a dunk, man.
Okay, reverse hard layup, whatever. We would have never seen that years ago. Nikola Jokic looks fast, and that says a lot. He's averaging a lot of assists, points, and rebounds. He looks
almost a triple-double.
So good. He looks. It's absurd. He looks. I've said he's skinnier and he's faster. It is absurd in my opinion. But other than that, I'll have Stephen Curry in there. He's willing the Golden State Warriors, having an amazing season. He broke Reggie Miller's. He's second place all time in 3-pointers made. I think with Reggie Miller, he's gonna pass Ray Allen. I think it is a given. Give him a few years, and you're gonna have to shoot when you're older because the athleticism will waver. Other than that, we have KD. He's been really good, and I gotta put LeBron in there. He's been deserving of the MVP conversation for years now, and I think he deserves a mention. He's averaging 24, 8, and 8. He's had games where he's had 30 points, 20 points, and he's been very efficient this year, and he's been hitting threes. I think LeBron definitely deserves a lot of votes for MVP this season.
For me, LeBron, it's like, I think they're strolling through the season. We talked about this last podcast, LaCruz James. 24 for him. You've seen him do more. Like, his career averages 27, 7, and 7, which an interesting fact. He's never actually had that stat line in a game. And
yeah, he was close.
Yeah, and everybody's waiting for that stat line to happen, but it hasn't happened yet. But yeah, I think I definitely agree on you with Jokic. I think he is right now clear-cut favorite for MVP, averaging 26, 12, 9.6 assists, almost a triple-double, 2 steals, and half a block per game. That is crazy for a center who we thought like he scores around 20 points per game. He's up that number to almost 26, and I mean, yeah, he's like, out of all the players we wanted to be MVPs, we had James Harden, he got his MVP. We got Russell Westbrook, he had his MVP, and we're constantly looking for players with their like own stories. And since we had Giannis for 2 years, I really doubt we're gonna get a 3-time MVP Giannis with the way he's been playing.
Voter fatigue.
Yeah.
Voter fatigue.
So Nikola Jokic right now looks like the obvious choice. And yeah.
Yeah, Luka Doncic was a heavy favorite, but I don't think it's going to necessarily happen because of how Dallas have been a little bit up and down, and looking at how Denver has been better. I thought, personally, Doncic was going to take a leap. Doncic has been amazing, but I thought the team was going to take a leap. But I guess this maybe proves that they are not ready for a top seed yet, because
Many players are outdone.
I know they need. I think it has been said they need one more piece to contend. But with Jokic, I think he's definitely one of the biggest valid candidates for MVP this season.
I think with Doncic, wait till you see until Josh Richardson is back, Dorian Finney-Smith, Dwight Powell as well. I think when they all come back, plus Porzingis has been playing really well, like coming off of an injury. I think they're definitely a team to be that 4 or 5 seed. I know they were 7th last year, but this is a team to look out for, even though they have been looking pretty bad. I want to see them in full strength, and I think they can show why they're better than what they're at right now. But
yeah,
for me, like the second MVP, I wanted to put Durant as well. Coming off an injury and playing the way he has, 31 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. It seems like he rested for a year and now he just came back to destroy the league. Like he never had an injury. So it's crazy.
Yeah,
Kevin is crazy.
I think the thing is, when you're out for a specifically long period of time, and when you're known to be a killer on the court, you're a scoring champion, you want to come back there and you want to prove everybody wrong. Because remember, early on in the season, people were ranking him like close to 10th on, the top 10 rankings. That is disrespectful. He's a former MVP, scoring champion, finals MVP, and like the Durant disrespect is going to stop now because he is averaging those absurd numbers with Brooklyn. And I think people forget Kevin Durant is, in my opinion, one of the greatest scorers of all time, because he has no offensive weaknesses in his game, and it has been said millions of times already.
It just comes so easy for him. You can just pull up from anywhere. Nobody can really block your shot just because of your height. Like the arc, the way your ball is when you're up in the air, it's very, very hard to block. So he can literally just do a turnaround face-up jumper. Nobody can block it. It always goes in. It's hard to stop him. So for me, it's Jokic and Durant. For you, I suppose it was also Jokic, Durant, LeBron, and who was it else? I think Doncic, you said? Curry. Yeah. So, yeah, I think all these are valid players. I guess that's all for the topics. You can run us out.
I'll have a potential sleeper MVP. I don't think it'll happen as much, but Joel Embiid, he's been one of the most dominant players so far. I don't know if he'll keep it up, but if Joel keeps it up, he deserves at least a couple of nods as well.
That's true. All right, we can round it off.
We've talked about everything we have. The season is very early on. I think this season is going to be one of the most exciting seasons we've had. It is a little bit disappointing because of how COVID has postponed many games. Philadelphia has been playing players who are third stringers, and it has caused them to drop a little bit. And I think this season we're about to see a lot of surprises, a lot of ups and a lot of downs in the surprise category because of how teams have been playing, how players have been performing, injuries, hot takes, and everything. Plus, Gobert's contract and how Shaq has been in the media a lot, and how he's been criticizing. He's been criticizing a lot of players. But yeah, I guess we're done.
Yeah, hoping for a brighter future. See ya.